For there be divers sorts of death, some wherein the body remaineth, and in some it vanisheth quite away with the spirit. This commonly occurreth only in solitude, and none seeing the end, we say the man is lost, or gone on a long journey, which indeed he hath, but sometimes it hath happened in the sight of many, as abundant testimony showeth. In one kind of death the spirit also dieth, and this it hath been known to do while yet the body was still in vigor for many years. Sometimes, as is veritably attested, it dieth with the body, but after a season it raised up again in that place where the body decayed. Pondering these words of Holly, whom God rest, and questioning their full meaning, as one who, having an intimation, yet doubts if there will not be something behind other than that which has discerned, I noted not whither I had strayed until a sudden chill wind striking my face revived in me a sense of my surroundings. I observed with astonishment that everything seemed unfamiliar. On one side of me stretched a bleak and desolate expanse of plain covered with a tall overgrowth of sere grass, which rustled and whistled in the autumn wind with heaven knows what mysterious and disquieting suggestion. Protruded at long intervals above it stood strange shaped and somber-colored rocks, which seemed to have an understanding with one another, and to exchange looks of uncomfortable significance, as if they had reared their heads to watch the issue of some foreseen event. A few blasted trees were here and there appeared as leaders in this malevolent conspiracy of silent expectation. The day, I thought, must be far advanced, though the sun was invisible, and although sensible that the air was raw and chill, my consciousness of that fact was rather mental than physical. I had no feeling of discomfort. Over all the dismal landscape, a canopy of low, lead-colored clouds hung like a visible curse. In all this there were a menace and a portent, a hint of evil, an intimation of doom. In bird, beast, or insect there was none. The wind sighed in the bare branches of the dead trees, and the gray grass bent to whisper its dread secret to the earth, but no other sound nor emotion broke the awful repose of that dismal place. I observed in the herbage a number of weather-worn stones, evidently shaped with tools. They were broken, covered with moss, and half sunken in the earth. Some lay prostrate, some leaned at various angles. None were vertical. They were obviously headstones or graves, though the graves themselves no longer existed as either mounds or depressions. The years had leveled all, scattered here and there. More massive blocks showed where some pompous tomb or ambitious monument had once flung its feeble defiance at oblivion. So old seemed these relics, these vestiges of vanity and memorials of affection and piety, so battered and worn and stained, so neglected, deserted, forgotten this place, that I could not help thinking myself the discoverer of the burial ground of a prehistoric race of men whose very name was long extinct. Filled with these reflections, I was for some time heedless of the sequence of my own experiences, but soon I thought, how did I get here? A moment's reflection seemed to make it all clear and explain at the same time, though in a very disquieting way, the singular character with which my fancy had invested all that I saw and heard. I was ill. I remembered now that I had been prostrated by a sudden fever, and that my family had told me that in my periods of delirium I had constantly cried out for liberty and air, and had been held in bed to prevent my escape out of doors. Now I had eluded the vigilance of my attendants, and had wandered hither to where I could not conjecture. Clearly I was at a considerable distance from the city where I dwelt, the ancient and famous city of Carcosa. No signs of human life were anywhere visible nor audible. No rising smoke, no watchdogs bark, no lowing of cattle, no shouts of children at play, nothing but that dismal burial place with its air of mystery and dread, due to my own disordered brain. Was I not becoming again delirious, there beyond human aid? Was it indeed not all an illusion of my madness? I called aloud the names of my wives and sons, reached out my hands in search of theirs, and even as I walked among the crumbling stones and the withered grass, a noise from behind me just caused me to turn around. It was a wild animal. It was a lynx, and it was approaching. And the thought came to me, if I break down here in this desert, if the fever returns and I fail, this beast will be at my throat. I sprang toward it, shouting. It trotted tranquilly by within a hand's breadth of me and disappeared behind a rock. A moment later, a man's head appeared to rise out of the ground a short distance away. He was ascending the farther slope of a low hill whose crest was hardly to be distinguished from the general level. His figure soon came into view against the background of grey clouds. He was half naked and half clad in skins of animals. His hair was unkempt, and his beard was long and ragged. In one hand he carried a bow and an arrow, the other held a blazing torch with a long trail of black smoke. He walked slowly and with caution, as if he feared falling into some open grave concealed by the tall grass. This strange apparition surprised but did not alarm, and taking such a course as to intercept him, I met him almost face to face, casting him with the familiar salutation, God keep you, God keep you. He gave no heed, nor did he arrest his pace. Good stranger, I continued, I am ill and lost. Direct me, I beseech you, to Carcosa. The man broke into a barbarous chant in an unknown tongue, passing on and away, and an owl on the branch of a decayed tree hooted dismally, and was answered by another in the distance. Looking upward, I saw, through a sudden rift in the clouds, a Liberian and the Hyades. In all this there was a hint of night. The lynx the man with the torch, the owls. Yet I saw even the stars in absence of the darkness. I saw, but was apparently not seen nor heard. Under what awful spell did I now exist? I seated myself at the root of a great tree, seriously to consider what it were best for me to do. That I was mad I could no longer doubt, yet recognized ground of doubt in the conviction. A fever I had no trace, and I had withal a sense of exhilaration and vigor, although unknown to me altogether, a feeling of mental and physical exaltation. My senses seemed all alert, and I could feel the air as a ponderous substance. I could hear the silence. A great root of the giant tree against whose trunk I leaned as I sat held enclosed in its grasp a slab of stone, a part of which protruded into a recess formed by another root. The stone was thus partly protected from the weather, though greatly decomposed. Its edges were worn round, and its corners were eaten away. Its surface was deeply furrowed and scaled. Glittering particles of mica were visible in the earth about it, vestiges of its decomposition. This stone had apparently marked the grave out of which the tree had sprung many ages ago. The tree's exacting roots had robbed the grave and made the stone a prisoner. A sudden wind pushed some dry leaves and twigs from the uppermost face of the stone, and I saw low relief letters of an inscription and bent to read it. God in heaven, God, my name in full, and the date of my birth, and the date of my death. A level shaft of light illuminated the whole side of the tree as I sprang to my feet in terror, and the sun was rising in the rosy east. I stood between the tree and his broad red disk. No shadow darkened the trunk. A chorus of howling wolves saluted the dawn. I saw them sitting on their haunches, singing, and in groups on the summits of irregular mounds, and tumultuously filling half of my desert prospect and extending to the horizon, and I then knew that these were ruins of the ancient and famous city of Carcosa.